Dear colleagues, dear ECO4ALL members, it is my great pleasure as chair of the COST Action ECO4ALL to welcome you to today's webinar entitled Insights from ECO4ALL Grant Winners, Lessons for Researchers. One of the fundamental principles of the COST actions is to invest in people and networks. COST is not only about research results, it is about creating opportunities for researchers to connect, learn from each other, develop new skills, and build long-term international collaborations. Particularly important is COST's commitment to supporting early career investigators and young researchers, providing them with opportunities to participate in international networks, gain visibility, develop leadership skills, and access funding through networking tools such short-term scientific missions, dissemination grants, inclusiveness target countries conference grants like ITC grants, virtual mobility grants, and training schools. Today's webinar reflects these principles perfectly. We had the opportunity to hear directly from ECO4ALL grant beneficiaries who will share their experiences, challenges, and lessons learned. Their stories demonstrate how COST networking tools can support academic development, international cooperation, and research excellence. As a growing network, ECO4ALL COST Action, during 3 years of implementation of more than 600 members from 50 countries, remains committed to inclusiveness, capacity building, knowledge sharing, and supporting the next generation of researchers. I hope that today's successful webinar will inspire many of our members, especially young researchers, with the support of senior researchers to actively engage in future COST opportunities. I would also like to inform that this webinar is being recorded and will be disseminated through our ECO4ALL YouTube channel that I advise to follow, allowing a wider audience to benefit from the experiences, recommendations, and lessons shared today by our grant winners and action leaders. I would like to thank especially our grant awarding coordinator that is present today, Professor Isidora Milošević, and our young research mentor and management committee member, Dr. Tarlan Ahmadov, and all grant winners for their valuable contribution to this webinar. I wish you all an inspiring and productive discussions that can be shared today with the support of the presentations of our grant winners and moderators. Thank you a lot. Tarlan, you have a floor.
Thank you so much, Olesea, for introduction. But yeah, as you already correctly on all the most important parts, like why we are here and what we are gonna do today. So my name is Tarlan Ahmadov. So I have the honor to serve as young research mentor for ECO4ALL. So today I won't pretend that I have the answer to all the questions, but I will try to deliver that to answer what sparks this funding application, what sparks for getting this granted, like a funded grant, and more people to sort of spark this within among us, like we can apply for the ECO4ALL or other COST actions for our STSM or virtual mobility or other type of grants that we can apply for. And today we have these 3 remarkable women who turned their, I don't know yet, into the funded finished work. So we have Esma Nur Cinicioglu, Jelena Ruso, and Tatia Dolidze that will walk us through not just what they have achieved, but how they have achieved. So before we begin, so we also want to quickly note that we will move through the 2 sections. So first we will have this roundtable within the 3 granted researchers, and then we will have a quick pause and then go for the second round where we will have this more interactive period. Here our action chair Olesea will also help us to answer the question of not just like a good grant, but like fundable grant. So the thing that most of us miss when we apply for a grant. And we also have our grant awarding coordinator, Isidora, who can also advise on spot in case you have already like idea for the grant. So you can share with us in the chat, or you can just email us to that directly, and we will give the comments like on spot, like what is the sort of things it takes to make it granted. So not to take more of your time, so we can already start our roundtable. So I will start with the first question. Esma Nur, if you're already ready, so I can start with you.
Yes, I'm ready.
Thanks. So I would like to start with, you had the grant for comparative analysis on circular economy, which ran from August to September 2024.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's of me? No, I don't.
No. It was from our other members.
Okay.
I wanted to walk us through the moment this grant idea was born. Like, was it a research gap you discovered, a problem that you experienced personally, or was a strategic opportunity you spotted? So what was the initial step?
Okay. So that's a very interesting question. And I wish I could have answered that question like, okay, I had the idea of doing this and so on. And actually, I did not have an idea. I was doing my vacation with my family at that time, when I received a message from Radu Mirza, who is the former coordinator of working group number 3. And the reason why I knew him was that because, okay, this is the first COST action I ever participated, okay? And before joining this COST action, I didn't have any idea how things were going on in a COST action. However, during the process, I learned a little bit, and previously, there was a call within the project for a sub-coordinator of the working group number 3, and I applied for that one, and I met, through email, I met Radu and Olesea and everyone. I didn't know anyone before. And as I said, I was doing my vacation, and Radu told me that they were looking for someone who is capable enough to coordinate a group in order to be able to develop the state of the art report at that time. And I was willing, and this is the comparative country analysis. That job has to be done. Are you willing to participate in that one? Can you do the job? And you can apply for virtual mobility grants such that you can locate your time to work on this report and so on, and also coordinate with the other participants who are willing to work on it. And I just jumped to the idea, although I didn't know much about it, but I knew that because I'm from business school, from Istanbul University Business School, and I'm from Quantitative Methods Division, I could have done the job. So that's how it came, and then I began to work on it, and I tried to gather the group who is going to work on the report, and that's how the story began. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It sounds really like a nice accident.
Yeah. Well, I think that is the nice thing about COST actions, which Olesea was referring to. Yes, it is an opportunity for us to do research. However, that research forms through the collaborative process that we are just creating a network over here with some other researchers which we didn't have the opportunity to meet in other platforms.
Thank you so much. Jelena, if you may continue this conversation, there's the same question.
Excuse me?
No, I was referring to Jelena, if you can continue the same conversation.
Did you ask for me or
Yes.
other colleagues? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Only one Jelena for today.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I will not repeat the similar situation. It's my first time that I actually apply for the grant, and luckily, really, I got it. And also, when it comes to my idea, I started to actually my field of interest is quality management standardization. I'm from Faculty of Organizational Sciences, University of Belgrade in Serbia, and I wanted to find the link between my field of interest and also circular economy in the way that, how to say, to be attractive to evaluators, yeah, So that's also always tricky to find something that will be at the end practical, actually. So the idea emerged from the combination of some kind, I can say, the research gap and the strategic opportunity within the ECO4ALL COST Action. And as I said, for 15 years, my research has focused on the quality management, the standardization, and the customer protection and satisfaction. So through my previous work on the circular economy, I noticed that many discussions focus on legislation, sustainability goals, business models, different business models. But I can say, surprisingly, actually, the little attention is paid to the role of the standards as a bridge between the circular economy principles and customer satisfaction and trust. So at the same time, through my involvement in different ECO4ALL actions, initiatives, and activities, and discussion with colleagues from my country and from different countries from ECO4ALL participants, I realized actually that deliverable D8 could benefit more from the systematic, I can say, overview of the circular economy standards. So there was really plenty of information scattered across the ISO standards, national frameworks, industry initiatives, but no, I can say, not consolidated analysis explaining how these standards contribute to the customer confidence and satisfaction. So the turning point actually came after my earlier collaboration, customers' decision-making and legislation awareness in the circular economy. And during those discussions, I repeatedly return to the same question. Actually, customers are often asked to make sustainable choices, but how they can know which product or services are generally aligned with these circular economy principles. So that question actually led me to see standards not only as a technical documents, but as instruments that create transparency, trust, and accountability. So the grant therefore became a really great opportunity to connect these three areas that are usually studied separately: circular economy, standardization, and customer satisfaction. So this virtual mobility format was actually particularly attractive for me because it allowed me to collaborate with experts from Moldova. In my case, it was Moldova, Romania, and Hungary, bringing together complementary expertise in regulation, finance, innovation, and quality management. So actually, the project was born from recognizing this missing link in the literature and simultaneously seeing this great opportunity to contribute directly to the important deliverable with the COST action.
Well, thanks, Jelena. It sounds really awesome, how it's a research driven and how it's collaborative. I wish we all have the same situations. But now we'll continue with Tatia, but you have this a different grants because you apply for this institutional change grant where you wrote this gender equality plan, which is rather challenging than the research grants. So how did you make this case that it wasn't just a policy development, but genuinely research and change investment?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this was not a solo insight. The starting point was the chair. What I mean that there was a genuine commitment to gender equality and inclusiveness from the leadership before I actually came into it. And that mattered, of course, because without it, none of these would have had any traction. And our baseline story is not what would you expect, because women were already the majority, around 59% of members and 54% of the management committee, and a majority in every working group, and even a majority of our young researchers, as you are well aware, Tarlan. And so the leadership cared, and on paper, we were already doing well. So the opportunity was not actually to fix a problem, it was to give that commitment a lasting framework. So to capture where we stood, to set the clear targets and put a monitoring in place so that the balance is something we can sustain and demonstrate as the action grows. And honestly, writing a gender equality plan for a network that's already balanced is a more interesting task than patching a deficit. And the goal becomes to protect something good and make it measurable. So there is something fitting about it too, because we're a network built around the circular economy, right? So which is fundamentally about fairness, it's about access. So holding ourselves to that same standard of inclusion felt right. So my short answer is that the commitment was the chair's and my contribution was building the vehicle to carry it forward.
Thank you so much, Tatia, for sharing.
Have any follow-up questions? Then
I have tons of it, but I try to limit it just to make sure that we all cover all the questions. But it's really nice to hear like how this initial spark is also started. Because from my side, I'm not going to share my story because it's not in the agenda. But yeah, I also recently got approved my virtual mobility. I'm so excited. So for me, I had a very different start line. So I hope that this inspirational conversation will also spark the fire in each of us, like how we can already start this initiating like this STSMs or virtual mobility, because I have been also part of this COST project for like 3 years and I have never applied except this year I started it. So it's really important to learn like how it is the first step. So, but thanks a lot for sharing. Now we have covered the first round and to understand that what's the inspiration in the beginning. So now I want to go to the second question, which is like strike me as how different each of you have arrived at the same finish line, like which is a funded grant. So we had this inspiration, but now the question like, what was the secret weapon, which is like a one section or one framing or one argument that made this like evaluator to say yes to your application. So if that's fine, I will go the same order with you, Esma. So we have this comparative studies that can feel abstract on paper, but how did you make this practical value tangible? Like what was this like your weapon to make sure that this was funded?
Okay, first of all, I guess it's a different story when I applied to this fund, and then when because I was checking today to my application and also to my report after the virtual mobility grant was already finished, and you can see some differences, because the thing is, along the road nothing goes well as planned. So in my initial report, for instance, I am talking about I already created a subgroup in order to be able to work on the report that we were going to create and do the comparative counter analysis. And then with 4 members, and I'm giving the names and so on. But that's a strength that you can have, I believe. But you know about what you are going to achieve. You create if necessary, you create members of the group, or if not, you know the steps of the research that you are going to follow on. However, that can change, and in my case, that has changed. And well, the strength that I can say that happens to be over there, that I was keen to fulfill the task that is given to me, and I just described the steps necessary to be taken. And if something doesn't go along the plan, I had a plan B to accomplish the task that is given to me. That was the case in my task, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And Jelena, what was your weapon? You're muted. Jelena, we cannot hear you. You're muted.
Okay, sorry. Yes, it's really hard to say if there is a recipe for some successful application, or as you said, secret weapon. So I thought about that. So maybe I can highlight 2 maybe secret weapons in my case. Actually, it was the way the proposal framed the standard as a consumer-oriented tools rather than purely technical instruments. I think that's the first thing that separates my application. I think, of course, we have to ask the evaluators, but maybe many projects on the circular economy discuss for example, environmental benefits, waste reduction, or, for example, resource efficiency. So those are all these aspects are certainly important, definitely. But maybe evaluators often see many similar proposals covering similar topics. So what I think made my proposal different was the argument that the standard ultimately influence people, and they affect whether consumers trust the product, whether they believe sustainability claims, and also whether they are willing to participate in circular economy practices such as, repair, reuse, or recycling. So instead of presenting the standards as a technical requirements, I position them as a mechanism that strengthens consumers' confidence and satisfaction. That's the first one, I think, weapon. And the second one, second strength was the clear alignment with the deliverability aid. Why I said that? Because the project was not proposing a theoretical experience, so it was a very concrete output, a dedicated chapter that would become part of the official cost action deliverable. So I think the elevators could immediately see the practical value and impact. So also I believe that the international collaborations also can strengthen the proposal. I actually assemble a team with the complementary expertise, as I said, customer behavior, regulation, finance, innovation, standardization, and this demonstrated the project was not dependent on the single perspective, but would benefit from a multidisciplinary input. So finally, I can say that the proposal was highly realistic. The objectives, timeline, workload, expected outputs were tightly connected, so reviewers could clearly see what could be delivered. And how it would be delivered and how it would contribute to the broader goal of ECO4ALL action. And you always have to look at the broader goal of ECO4ALL and to try to fit your idea and in your goal with proposal with that. So in short, to long story short, the strongest argument was that the standards are not only about the compliance, they're about creating the trust, and that framing helped transform this technical topic into one direct societal relevance.
Well, that sounds really like a holistic weapon. Like you have considered like so many different angles, which sounds really inspiring for me. So thanks a lot for sharing. What about you, Tatia? So what was your secret weapon?
Well, I refuse to let gender equality stay abstract. I tried to push it that far because the leadership commitment was already there to build on. I've already mentioned that. I think my secret weapon was that gender equality plan was not a side project. It was the operational follow through on a commitment that the leadership had already made under COST own policy. So I believe it was successful because it helped the evaluators act on their own commitment. So basically, I made an existing leadership commitment measurable, evidence-based, and impossible to separate from the action's own mission. So that's definitely worth mentioning as a secret weapon. Beyond that, well, most proposals on this topic, I mean, gender equality, they promise values, commitment, awareness, culture, and mine actually promise the artifacts. So a checklist organizers could actually use, a monitoring template with trackable indicators and smart targets instead of just good intentioned. And I grounded it in evidence, not the assertion, because I came with the real composition. I mentioned 59% women, the working group balance around 85% of women members from inclusive and target countries. And it was paired with a survey on how people actually felt. So my own survey. And so the framing was that here's where we stand, here's how it's experienced, and now let's set the targets from that. So basically that's the story.
All for sharing all the secrets, like how you made it possible from the idea to the funded grant. So again, for me, it's very inspiring because I have not really much experience except one time. And for me, my agenda with that grant was just hey, I'm a young researcher and I need the support. And I need to collaborate with senior researchers. And I was tricked with the objective of this course So how these objectives align and what are my needs. So I put more of like a personal role, like I need to grow and I need the help. So I don't know how much it will be working in the other cost actions, but for the first time I tried and it worked somewhat. So, but thanks a lot again for sharing all these inspiring notes. So I will go for the third round of the question, which is now we covered the how they started, how you made it possible, but not the question is like, even though we plan everything in advance, it's what you already mentioned that how you already prepared in advance, like to make sure that nothing goes wrong. But honestly, there's always something that goes wrong. So, so there is like something between the proposal and the reality. So maybe you can tell us like the moment where the project really diverged from the proposal that you promised, and what broke and how did you fix it?
Okay, so the problem that we had encountered during the preparation of comparative country analysis, as I said in the initial application, I mentioned a subgroup who is going to collaborate with me and create the report on collaborative country analysis. However, this is, as you all know, cost actions are once you participate willingly and you don't have any obligation to participate in this one. However, it happened to be that the other team members were not able at the time that we were going to work and submit the project. They were not available and they were not willing to participate. And I remember that just meeting Olesea in another cost action in a meeting in Istanbul and just complaining about it to her. And she was very supportive. And I was just looking for some solution because yes, I was willing to work on it. I knew I had the responsibility to finish the job. However, I needed some support or some other member. So I realized that I knew another project member through my contacts in this cost action. And she just recommended to me to Elif Korkmaz Tümer. I believe she's already over here. And I didn't know Elif before. We just met through a Zoom meeting. And then we began to collaborate on creating this, on working on this comparative country analysis. That was the one thing that didn't go through the plan, and actually that was a very nice coincidence. I'm very happy about it, and I'm sure Elif is also. So because the thing is, we began to collaborate also on other research and so on. So that was a nice thing that came out. And so we just finished the report, did both a data envelopment analysis and TOBIT regression to be to accomplish this country comparison. And another thing that went wrong is that, okay, so as we were working on the working group number 3 report, and as you can imagine, the report that we are going to do also depends on the reports on the previous classes. The reports were very nice of the working group number 1 and 2. However, we needed more data, okay, in order to be able to do our analysis. And the problem that we encountered, we decided to use to support the survey results that we had from the other reports, also through the Eurostat circular economy indicators, such that a better result actually came out. We were able to see how the survey results and the other data that we collected through Eurostat are comparing, and we used all of them together in our report. That was the thing actually leading to a better outcome, I believe. Two things that were not planned, both led to better outcomes.
Well, thank you so much, Esma Nur, and thank you a lot for mentioning one really important part, which is like the engagement with cost actions are voluntary. Yes. And how do we really ensure like to make people connected, even though we all first put the interest to join it, but then suddenly not many people are engaging. So that's really, really, really thankful for mentioning that, because it's a struggle also I'm having, because I was trying to collaborate with colleagues and then suddenly they just disappear. I'm like, oh God, please respond and please help.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for sharing that important part. And what about you, Jelena? Did you have any problem that during this grant period you faced, and what was your solutions?
Yes, of course. I think that we always have some issues when apply and work anything in the world. So one of the biggest surprise in my case, as I said, I are working and searching for different standards that will support and help the circular economy to be understandable and useful for customers. And one of the biggest surprise was actually the complexity and diversity of the circular economy standards. So when I'm writing the proposal, I expected to identify a relatively clear set of the standards and classify them according to their relevance to the circular economy practice. However, once the review started, it became clear that the landscape was much broader than anticipated. So I encountered international standards, national frameworks, industry-driven initiatives, de facto standards, and several new standards still under development. Actually, in my case, the boundaries between environmental management standards, sustainability standards, and circular economy standards were not entirely clear. And that was the biggest issue for me, actually, how to separate them, how to group them in some logical way. So at the one point, actually, I realized that if I simply list the standards, the results would not provide meaningful guidance for stakeholders. So the regional plan underestimated the challenge of organizing this information into the coherent structure. To address this, I changed my approach, actually. From the beginning, instead of organizing standards, for example, alphabetically or by issuing organization, I created a classification framework based on their practical role. So I grouped them into areas such as environmental management, energy management, infrastructure, business models, governance systems, and emerging standards. So this restructuring significantly, I think, improved the final output, because it always allows readers to understand not only what standard exists, but also how they support different dimensions or circular economy implementation. And the experience taught me an important lesson, actually, that sometimes the real challenge is not collecting information, but transforming complexity into something useful and actionable.
Thank you so much, Jelena. And how about you, Tatia? Like, because in your case, it was again something different than the research grant. So you were doing it alone. So what was the issue that you faced in that time?
Is it a question to me, Tarlan?
Yes. Sorry if I pronounced your names wrong.
Yeah, you called me Jelena. That's why I got confused. Well, in my case, the reality check was that the survey responses, they were overwhelmingly positive. So almost everything scored above 4 out of 5. And more than 90% reported there were no barriers to gender equality or inclusiveness. And the same amount were women. So the people most engaged with this gender survey were the ones that were already invested in it. So and when you have a glowing average from a mostly women sample, is not actually telling you the network is fine. It's telling you that the perspective you most need is not fully represented. So the silence itself is a finding, and that's what I thought. So I triangulated. I read low male engagement as data. I leaned on the baseline and dug under the averages. So even the happy respondents, they asked for clear targets and monitoring, and the lowest scoring item was confidence in addressing the gender bias, and the top training request was inclusive leadership, and that's what I built the plan on, not the rosy numbers just. So the lesson for me was that you have to read what the data is not saying as carefully as what it is saying. Taken at the face value, those positive numbers would have just produced a plan that just congratulated us. on how wonderful we're doing, but if read properly, then they can point to one that actually moves the action forward.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really important to also go and consider these actions objectives. Yeah, as you mentioned, like how we move this forward. But now, actually, I do have one more last question to our speakers. But before that, because we have already talked about this let's say this journey from the inspiration to doing things, facing a problem. But before going to the last question, which is like the impact on your career, I want to invite our grant awarding coordinator Isidora, because we have already heard from this process, but we want to also unpack this anatomy of fundable proposal before we go to the last point of how it affects our career. So because we have already heard from the real grant winners, but let's take a view from the other angle, which is like what the grant awarding coordinator is looking when we are applying. So Isidora, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tarlan. I'm very happy because I'm here with you today in this webinar, because this webinar is very important for our action and for our members of our action. First of all, I would like to thank you and Action Chair Olesea Plotnic who organized this webinar and a lot of previous webinars and events within our COST Action. All activities and all webinars were very successfully, and today's also, because we have a lot of members in today's webinar. I would like to share, first of all, I would like to share my presentation because it's better for all of us to see. Okay, just a minute. Okay. Good afternoon. Officially, good afternoon, and thank you for joining this session. In this part of webinar, we will focus on two key elements: anatomy of fundable proposals and pre-planned strategic question and answers insights. The aim is to move beyond general principles and look more closely at what actually makes a proposal competitive and fundable in practice, as well as the kinds of strategic considerations that often arise during the evaluation process. My name is Isidora Milošević. I serve as a grant awarding coordinator within ECO4ALL COST Action. I will guide you through these perspectives, drawing both to the formal evaluation framework and the practical experience from implementation. Let's begin by unpacking that strong fundable proposal actually looks like. Now, a fundable proposal is not only about scientific quality, but about strategic fit within for COST Action. From a grant awarding committee perspective, we evaluate how clearly the application aligns with the action objectives and whether the proposed activity brings added value beyond the individual participation. We also look very carefully at expected outputs, feasibility, and overall coherence between objectives, methods, and of course budget. In other words, we are assessing impact potential within the network, not just travel itself. It is important to emphasize that the committee task is highly demanding, as it requires careful and fair consideration of all applications in a highly competitive environment. In this context, when we communicate decisions, we also need to clearly reflect cases where an application does not demonstrate sufficient alignment with the action objectives and expected impact pathway. What difference is a strong proposal is clarity of purpose and outputs. Successful applications clearly state yet will be produced, whether it is a joint paper, a new collaboration or concrete research outputs. Another key element is the international dimension. COST strongly values cross-country collaboration. We also look at how well the applicant justifies the choice of conference or host institution and whether there is a convincing explanation of why this activity is relevant at that moment. Finally, we also consider whether the proposal contributions or longer-term impact within the action, not just short-term participation. This slide provides a high-level overview of the COST grant awarding process. The key message is that grant management within COST is not an informal or ad hoc procedure, but a fully structured life cycle that is implemented through the ECOST platform. From the initial application phase through evaluation and approval and further into implementation, reporting and finally payment, every step follows predefined rules and it's fully traceable. This ensures that the process is transparent, consistent and that all applicants are treated equally regardless of their action or topic. For applicants, this means that once you submit your proposal, you are guided through a clear and predictable process where each step is defined in advance. So you always know what to expect and when, without uncertainty or hidden procedures. If you are wondering where you can track this process, all relevant steps and guidance are explained in the grant awarding guide available on ECOST platform. This slide explains the key actors involved in the grant awarding process and their roles. Applicants are responsible for submitting both the initial application and the final report after the activity is completed. The grant awarding coordinator plays a central role in evaluating applications and making formal approval or rejection decision on behalf of the management committee, grant awarding committee, based on the established criteria and cost rules. The action chair and vice chair provide the oversight and ensure that the process is aligned with the objectives of the action, of course. The core group, as the leaders of working groups, also provide input and opinions on applicants, particularly regarding their involvement in working group tasks and their contribution to the action's activities, helping to ensure that applications are assessed in a more informed and context-aware way. And finally, the grant holder manager handles the administrative side of the process, including communication, reporting procedures, and execution of the payment after successful approval of reports. Overall, this structure ensures a clear separation of responsibilities and strengthens the integrity and accountability of the entire grant awarding system. This slide is aligned with the previous slide, which analyzes steps in this evaluation process. The ECO4ALL grant evaluation process is structured in several clearly defined stages to ensure fairness, transparency, and equal treatment of all applicants through the procedure. The first, all submitted applications are assessed by the Grant Evaluation Committee, Grant Awarding Committee. This assessment is carried out strictly against the published eligibility requirements and evaluation criteria defined in the grant call. The next step, the second step, the outcomes and the recommendations of the evaluation committee are forwarded to the core group, which is responsible for the final review and approval of the proposed decisions. And the next step, once the action level decision is confirmed. The grant awarding coordinator is responsible for implementing the final outcome, either approval or rejection, within the cost system, in full alignment with cost administrative procedures and delegated responsibilities. And overall, this structured multi-stage process ensures that all applications are treated in a consideration, in a consistent and transparent manner, as defined and publicity communicated in the grant call documentation. To conclude, I also want to share some of the most common questions we receive in the grant awarding committee. What is the main selection criterion? The key criterion or key criteria is how well the proposal fits the cost action objectives and contributes to its goals. In addition, it must really show how activities lead to concrete impact, dissemination, use of results, added value of the network, final publication, etc. Then the next question, are publications enough? Publications are not sufficient on their own. COST prioritizes networking, collaboration, and capacity building. Science outputs matter, but the main value is in creating and strengthening international research networks. This is very important. Because of that, all applications must be reviewed with this criteria, how this application, how this grant application has networking among our members. And what weakens proposal most? The next question. Proposals are weakened when outputs are vague or not well defined, and when it is not clear why cost support is needed. A low added value of networking is a major drawback. Then the next question, how competitive are grants? Grants are very competitive and proposals are assessed in comparison with others. Small differences in clarity, structure and impact can determine success. Then the final question which I today present, what is a strong signal or success? Successful proposals clearly define outputs, show strong international collaboration and demonstrate realistic and visible implementation. And to conclude, I would like to emphasize that all documentation provided reflects the actual timing and logistics of the activity as accurately as possible. In this context of grant evaluation and reporting, clear and complete documentation is very important and essential, as even small inconsistencies can significantly affect the assessment of eligibility and compliance with data rules. For this reason, I have aimed to provide a fully transparent and coherent set of evidence supporting my claim. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you, Isidora. It's really nice to hear also that what you mentioned is capacity building and collaboration is the key. So my argument on, hey, I'm a young researcher, I'm hungry for knowledge and collaboration is the right way of sort of applying. And also thank you so much for all these insights. And because what I already realized that these key points that you mentioned already resonated with what Esma Nur, Jelena, and Tatia already mentioned, like share with their experience as a grant winner. But most important for me personally is like this, the main key takeaway from your presentation is that to have this clear why this and why now, like when applying for a grant. So because you might have an amazing idea, an amazing network of collaborator, but then if it's not really relevant for the COST project, so then, and why this and why now is not really answered, then yeah, maybe it's not the right way of applying. So, and also thank you so much for the formal process, like introducing the formal process of grant, because honestly, when I applied, I didn't know, because I applied for a grant, I thought like, in a 1 day or 2 day, I will get the answers, and I already planned my agenda, and then realized that no, actually, this is a complex and transparent process that needs to be done through a lot of people, like they need to evaluate. So And thanks a lot for sharing that part, because it's really important, because when we are planning for the grant, so we need to know that at least several weeks needs to be done before the process starts, because they have to go through this complex evaluation process. But now we have one more question for our speakers, which is about the impact on their career. But before that, can we just turn our camera on just for a quick picture, because we have already learned a lot of these inspiring points. I want to have this smile on our face for our dissemination purpose. And Olesea, can you take our pictures?
Yeah, just a second. Please smile, turn on the camera. Smile. One more. We have a second list. People. I don't see so many, but it's fine. Thank you.
Thanks so much for the smiles. And then now the last question for our speakers, for Esma Nur, for Jelena and Tatia. Before we conclude this part, I want to know, like, how was the impact on your career? Because personally for me, for the 3 years engagement with COST project has been amazing. I have actually published a lot already through the collaborations, and I have learned a lot. I made a lot of good connection, and we just done also a lot of small things together. So, but I want to learn from your side, like in general, and also from this grant application, like what was the impact on your career?
Okay, thank you, Tarlan. And Tarlan, I should agree with you. This joining this grant, also joining the COST Action, has nothing but positive. I'm sorry, I expressed it the wrong way. It has been all, I got all positive returns because I joined this action, and all because the thing is, first of all, it brought the collaboration with other researchers. I haven't had the opportunity to meet all you guys before joining this project. And it also brought me to another research area. I haven't worked on the circular economy before joining this project, and it taught me a lot. And Tarlan, you were mentioning that, okay, by the when the time comes that we have to do some work, no one helps you feel like that. I understand that frustration, but actually spending hours for working this project brought me papers on proceedings, papers on journals, and so on, and introduced me to another research area, introduced me to all the collaboration opportunities. And you actually never know how the return will come up. For instance, yes, we worked on this report, state-of-the-art report at that time. And the reason why we were doing that one, because it was necessary to accomplish this task at the deadline. And we didn't know that it was going to lead to something more. But as it came out, that report transformed, as Olesea very well knows, into a Routledge book chapter, for instance. And I remember there are so many positive things that I can mention. I had the opportunity to meeting all you guys, to meeting Elif, Olesea, Tarlan, all of you, and Isidora, and we just created with Olesea another paper, which we are submitting with Isidora's recommendation to another journal. And I remember participating in a meeting of this action, and meeting there with another COST Action leader who invited me to his project. And then I joined it, and I'm also doing work over there. So all the things that I got through joining the COST project are all positive, I can mention. It brought me collaboration opportunities, and it brought me different research. It introduced me to different research areas. I got publication out of it. I got, as I said, the virtual mobility grant out of it. So I strongly recommend it. And yes, no one may help at the time when you have to do the job. But the thing is, you are actually helping yourself when you are doing the job. That's the thing. That's how I feel.
Yeah, it's like a capacity that you're also building, like while you're facing these problems, like an opportunity to learn from it.
Yes, exactly.
I also love the point that when you mentioned about that you don't know when the impact comes. So you might start something, sorry for my voice, you might start doing something different, but then end up with a different impact. Like in your case, you had a completely different outcomes, and which is also at the end is a positive.
For instance, the report that we created with Elif, we did not know that it was going to transform into 2 different book chapters. We didn't know at that time. Probably, if everyone knew that at that time, probably more people would be willing to contribute. However, that was not the main thing. The main thing is that you are willing to do the job, whatever comes out.
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much for the sharing. And what about you, Jelena?
But I would say at the beginning that I think it's very important to be present. I think that all young researchers should be really active and participate in different ECO4ALL action initiatives. And that's why I say that, because that's the opportunity to share your idea, to talk with people, to receive the feedback, and that's how you can come across on some idea for this grant. So I would really want to thank Professor Isidora Milošević and Olesea Plotnic and other ECO4ALL participants for really encourage me to apply for this call, and I really hope that this through my experience I was able to help future applicants and would recommend all young researchers to apply freely, and they will not regret. But to back on your question, what is also the more valuable returns have appeared in area. Actually, I did not fully anticipate when I submitted the proposal. Of course, I expected to gain knowledge about the circular economy standards and contribute to the guidelines, and those outcomes are achieved, definitely. But I think that the broader impact has been much greater, as my previous colleague and speaker talk. The first, working closely with colleagues from the different countries, created a relationship that go beyond the specific activity, and these connections are already generating discussions about the future publications, the collaborations, and some future project opportunities. Perhaps, as I said, this most unexpected return has been visibility. Through webinars, workshops, discussions, and contributions to the COST deliverable, I became more engaged with the broader community of researchers and practitioners working on circular economy issues, and I can say that this visibility had created opportunity for future involvement that were not part of the original objectives. Yes. So looking back, the grant was not only an investment in a deliverable. I can say that it was investment in a long-term research development and collaboration, definitely.
Yeah, well, Jelena, and I really agree with all the points you have mentioned. We have a noise from the background. Yeah, for me also, like my engagement with COST project, and also actually I would mention that one important part, like because that was an initiative from Olesea and from this liaise COST Action that to do a joint event, which is another amazing idea that I don't know if it was probably from Olesea's side it came from, and it also made me a new collaboration with this liaise. Like when I went to this event, like which was jointly, I didn't know anyone from that COST project, but then at the end we published already 2 articles with the liaise together, so that was like very out of expected results. And now I will go for Tatia, because I know that you made a really great report, and in your presentation in Rome when I was there, like honestly, I never thought about the gender balance aspect, but you already made the impact on us as a researcher, because now I started thinking about it. But now the question is for you, like how this grant or the overall engagement with COST project, how it made an impact on your career?
Thank you, first of all. Well, I'd like to emphasize the relationships first, because I had repeated direct work with the chair, other leaders, with all of you, you know. That's a network you don't build in your own research corner. And just like today, being asked to speak today, I think it's one of those returns, isn't it? And second, well, the work, it left me with portable skills. For example, the experience of designing an instrument for a sensitive topic such as gender equality and inclusion, running an evidence-based process across such a large international network, and well, basically turning a commitment into measurable targets. This is something that, these are the things that transfer to almost any coordination or research roles. And well, I believe the COST actions COST in general was also left with portable assets. If you think of a baseline, a checklist, a monitoring template, these are the things that COST actions facing the same situation can just pick up and adapt. So I think that's also something valuable I have created, I feel proud of. And definitely last but not the least is the credibility. So the shared credibility, because it rests on the leadership that backed it from the start. So the real dividend, I think, was becoming someone trusted to take a commitment. So I would like to thank all of you for that, especially the chairperson, Olesea.
Thank you so much. It's very inspiring. And actually, we are done with the first part of our this webinar, which we try to understand this process of how the idea, spark of the idea comes to the research proposal, how it's made a problem in the way and how it solved it and how it made an impact. And thanks to Isidora, we also learned from the formal part of the process. So now we have covered all. So I hope this webinar have been inspiring to all of us, that when we are thinking of applying grants, so we have these key points, especially for mine was a takeaway, like why now and why this. And now, before we ending this first part of the webinar, we want to take a 5 minutes break, but this break, I would prefer to have a point where you can share your key takeaway. So what you learned from this webinar, like as in, what is your key takeaway for home, like when you're planning for your grants? And after this break of 5 minutes, we have a chance to live session for proposal collaboration, which is like basically if you have an idea for the COST project, especially for this ECO4ALL, because we have our COST action chair, Olesea, so she can give you on-spot advice if your grant is not like, we are not deciding winning or not, but to give you an on-point, like on-spot advice, like why this, like answering this question, like why this grant and how it might be fit for the objective of the COST, and is it aligned with our priorities for this year? So in case you have this proposal ideas, or if you want to hear from other people's ideas, like how we can like sort of develop it, feel free to stay here. And before that, then I want to again thank you for our speakers, Esma Nur, Jelena, and Tatia, for sharing your insights. It was so inspiring to hear from you. And thanks a lot for your generosity. And yeah, so we can now start this break part, and feel free to chat. Feel free to write in the chat what's your key takeaway, or just unmute yourself and share what is the key takeaway for you from this first part of the webinar. In the meanwhile, for those who want to engage with this calibration part of the proposal grant, like grant proposal, feel free to write your ideas in chat so we can read it together and comment on it. And yeah, looking forward.
Mr. Tarlan, may I have a question?
Sure.
Okay. I have a question about legal research. In fact, it is my problem. From the perspective of legal research in law, we do not usually use quantitative methods. We do not have inquiries or numbers. We generally usually work with qualitative methods. It is very normal in our field. So it is I have a difficulty to express my ideas without numbers and without inquiries. And when there is no numbers and no inquiries, the interdisciplinary evaluation committee, for impressing them, I have a problem. I don't know what they think, but I know if the committee if the committee members were from legal research, they would, for them, it would be very normal. But when there is an interdisciplinary evaluation committee, do you understand my problem?
Yes,
Yeah.
I get it. It's also a common problem with the article publication when you have this mixed method, or when you have a specific method, and then the reviewer, or like in our case, like grant holder, is not really understanding the methodology. It's hard to convince them, right?
Yes, in methodology, in law methodology, we do not work like this. There is a field, legal sociology, but in Turkey, legal sociologists, I don't know any legal sociologists in my country. So as a solution, I thought if I can find a legal sociologist with inquiries, I may solve this problem. But when I prepare a proposal, this proposal, the references are books and other articles, and that is the way we work in legal research. So if you have any proposals, any solution advices about this problem?
Yeah, I mean, I can add from my side, and maybe Olesea could also compliment on that because she is the one that's our COST Action chair. But already in the presentation of Isidora, there was like a spot which says like this: how the alignment between the objective, method, and output.
Yes, the question, I found that question at that time.
Yeah,
when I was listening Isidora.
Yeah, that was for me like maybe the answer will be that how, I mean, again, we might not really expect from the core group to have all the methodologies like skills, because it's really diverse. Like, we are also interdisciplinary, and we cannot really expect anything in terms of like being aware of all the methodology. But maybe in the grant application period, like we have to sort of explain how this objective is answered through this methodology. It's not just like we chose this methodology, but like how this methodology is a right fit for this objective, and how this objective will be turned to the output. So for me, like again, I'm not in the core group management to answer the question like whether or not.
So you say it is not important the method, it is quantitative or qualitative. It is important that this methodology explains the objective.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Like,